Hello, my name is Janice Sutherland and welcome to Phenomenal Woman, the podcast where we share the success journeys of women who have been there and done that. From the good, the bad, the ugly and everything in between, this is Real Talk by Real Women. We will share with you the highs and lows of their journey and give you honest insight on how you can navigate same with confidence, integrity and a smile. This week, I'm in conversation with Karen Dwyer. Karen is the author and creator of My Gratitude Attitude Journal. She's a single parent responsible for two incredible little human beings. She's an entrepreneur who is passionate about helping and empowering people in all walks of life. At the age of 31, Karen was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, an autoimmune disease that results in a progressive deterioration of vision, speech, and movement. For 4 years, she endured hospital stays, medications, and severe complications. This after getting airbrushed out of her own multi-million-pound company. Remarkably, Karen received a clean bill of health and has been living symptom-free without medication, and it's all down to practicing gratitude and a daily routine of writing. Karen is now ready to give back and help people change their mindset and get on with having a brilliant life, just as she has managed to do, even if you just can't see it yet. So Karen, I'm so glad you could join us today. So I gave a small bio at the top of the show, but could you tell us a little bit more about your humble beginnings and where you come from?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be doing this with you. So I'm from Dublin, Ireland. I suppose my story would have been that I set about at 23 years of age to set up my own business. I was picked through 4,000 people along with a friend, in inverted commas, for a Channel 4 program called Make Me a Million. Where the premise of the program is to make $1 million in a year. And,
okay.
Great excitement and how should I say it? You know, I was picturing this as my route to success. I was a single mom at age 23, so I ended up moving to London, and quickly thereafter, due to some disparity and falling out, I was kind of airbrushed out of my own company on the cusp of making millions. So quite a tricky start, or a challenging start to a career which ended up being very successful, but you can imagine it had a very big dent on my confidence levels, and it kind of rippled through the rest of my life for quite a few years. Post that then, I came back to Dublin and had a very successful sales career in management and ended up opening Jimmy Choo for Ireland.
Oh, wow. Well, we need to know you.
Yeah. Oh, it was amazing. So I ended up training in Sloane Street in London, and came back and recruited a team and opened it up, and Tamara Mellon came over and I took her out for dinner, and we bonded over being single parents and working women and trying to juggle it all. So that was wonderful. And then I got poached over to another company to kind of revolutionize their women's wear, and much bigger staff of 42 and budgets of in excess of 8 million. And it was like a really successful sales career. And then my daughter was starting school, so I just figured, you know what, when you try and reprioritize yourself and working hours and all those things. So I ended up taking a bit of a step down, went and started working in media, got a Monday to Friday job on a company car, so I had like weekends. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Sorry.
Okay.
So I worked my way up there, ended up in radio, ended up managing a radio station for sales and marketing, which was fantastic. And in the meantime, in between that, then I met my partner and ended up having another kid, and we'd all great plans. And then in 2012, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So it was a bit of a turbulent few years, on and off medication and lots of different complications, even ending up in intensive care at one point because one of the medications had to slow down my heart. So in December of 2014, I had to make quite a big decision on whether I put my health first or whether I put my career first. And so I chose my health. And even though it was the right decision, I really, really struggled with it. Because in my eyes, I'd given up my identity. I'd given up the power and financial freedom, because I'd always been independent and bought my own property, and I'd never had to rely on anybody else's financial security. So that was a real challenge. I say challenge. I more feel it was a trauma, to be honest. And then things took a little bit of a turn on Christmas Day of 2015. My ex walked out, and
you need to write a book.
I'm writing one. I've started. So as much as that was absolutely awful, and it was really upsetting, I had all of my family over for dinner, so I just didn't even say anything to anybody that day, because I didn't want to ruin anybody else's Christmas. I think my mum and my sister knew, and that was about it. You get on with it. You do it for kids. It's amazing the strength that you pull from I don't know where. But it was probably the best thing that ever could have happened, because 2 weeks later then, after, worrying, what the hell am I going to do? In my own eyes, I was a single mom with 2 kids by 2 different dads with MS.
Right.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I have no job. I gave up my identity. I'm now living with my mum, because I decided to rent out my property. What do you do? And so for 2 weeks, I walked around in a daze, and I heard that Pendulum Summit was on, and Tony Robbins was speaking.
Right.
And I begged everyone, and I didn't end up getting a ticket. And that day, about 12 o'clock, I was waiting. I went and collected my youngest from preschool. And I got a phone call, and I remember going around the roundabout, and I answered the phone call on Bluetooth, of course, because I wouldn't be like that one, And my friend said, I got you a ticket. Can you get there for 1 o'clock? So I rang my aunt, and I stunt rolled I think she was probably 4, out of the car, and I made it in, which was brilliant. And that was the day that I decided to get out of my own way. I decided I was going to take accountability and responsibility for myself. I was going to make whatever needed to happen to make myself happy.
Yeah.
So I started putting myself first, and doing everything I could, researching lots of different things. And that's when, as soon as I started respecting myself and believing in myself and taking that turn, my body started to mirror that.
Right.
And so in January of this year, after a neurology appointment, he said that there was no signs of my MS.
That's fabulous.
Yeah,
Absolutely
having given up all medication so naturally. So I probably went on a little bit of a tangent there.
No, you told us loads. So a couple of things I want to pick out there is because you've had a real tumultuous, that's probably the word, roller coaster ride of a life in literally just a few short years. What has really helped you? Because hearing what you're saying, we as women, we all face adversities, and I can see a lot of me in you, because we'll have to share stories off air. But what kept you focused, and what drove you to kind of just change your mindset to kind of say, look, I've got to look about me now?
Yeah, do you know what? I think it was taking the time to actually think about what I wanted or what makes me happy. Because I found that I spent so many years people pleasing and looking after everyone else and almost looking for approval.
Right.
For your existence. And I like the Channel 4 thing, really, I don't want to curse, but it really messed me up for so many years. And I'd so many demons about it, that I wasn't good enough, and that even though outwardly I was confident and I was, doing really good at my jobs, inside I was beating myself up, and I felt so ashamed and embarrassed, and it was torture for years, and I couldn't speak about it. And I think as soon as I started verbalizing that, because none of my friends would even talk to me about it, because they knew it had such a profound effect on me.
Yeah.
As soon as I started talking about it, and as soon as I've started legal proceedings, as soon as I started doing that,
yes,
it was like this weight was released. It was like, finally, I'm actually standing up for myself and I'm doing something that I believe is right and looking for justice. That really made me focused. I kind of felt good enough again, or I felt that I myself was worth fighting for.
Right.
And having that self-belief back. So I suppose to answer your question, because I've gone off again, but to answer your question, the belief in myself again, and admitting to myself that I wasn't okay and that I needed to do something about it, actually getting very real. Gave me so much strength.
Right.
And when I started to do that, then with that came so much confidence. Because, sometimes you hold so much fear around something, and the more that you hold it and don't do anything about it or don't take any action, the greater this monster becomes. However, when you do start taking those little bits of action, whatever it might be, all of a sudden that fear kind of dissipates.
Yes.
And it's like, well, hang on, if I can do that, well, what else can I do?
So would you
and
say
all of a sudden,
say it's an element of taking back control?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, I suppose it all kind of binds in together with, what makes you happy? What are you doing? Where are your priorities? And you're right in saying that, taking back that control and making sure that you're not living for somebody else. You're not just surviving, or you're not just going ahead with day-to-day activities just for the sake of it. Actually, take stock.
Yeah. So going through all that, and and obviously, I suppose you're almost like pressing the reset button because you as you say, MS free. What would you say your key motivators now for you to continue your career?
I think to prove myself wrong in some ways, it's like, you have those internal dialogues of you're not good enough and you can't do it. And, then you've got the other one with all of the will in the world saying you can and you've done it before. And my thing is about, borrowing from the past in order to move into the future. So I think the motivators are always going to be my kids, because I want to, provide. And that, I suppose that's an obvious one. The other thing then is, I don't want to get to my older age and not have tried. That scares the living daylight out of me, because I see older people and I see, their people's parents, whatever else around, and say, oh, I wish I could have done that. And my thing about that is, well, why haven't you? Or why don't you? And I hear people making excuses all the time, and I did it for years. Oh, I can't do this because, and these kind of invisible rules that we place on ourselves. Well, actually, we're the only ones that are in our own way. So I right now, I feel like I can achieve anything if my heart is in it, and if I give it enough time. I don't think there's anything we cannot achieve once we have a strong mindset about it, and once we're actually doing it with a good heart.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything we can't.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But unfortunately, some of our listeners don't have that level of confidence. So what kind of tips would you give a woman hearing this to say, look, wow, I wish I had just a little ounce of her confidence? What tips would you give them to kind of give them what tips? Leave it at that.
And I'll just say, and I know I sound confident. I don't feel 100% confident all the time. And you would have seen me, at different points over the last few months, possibly crying, going, oh my God, I can't do this. So, I do have wobbles. But one of the big things for me is borrowing from the past in order to move into the future. I mentioned that a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've done is, if I'm feeling low, or if I'm feeling like I might not get to the point where I want to go, it's like, okay, well, just stop for a second. What have I done in the past that has really, been an achievement for me? So whether it's having a kid, whether it's being a single parent and providing for them by myself, whether it's, I bought a property, now I know I haven't rented out, but buying a property before, whether it's holding down a job with a boss I couldn't stand, but I needed to do it, so I'll provide for that. They're, in my eyes, they're bloody big achievements.
Yes.
And sometimes we forget that, and we're going along. And I'm my own worst enemy a lot of the time. I give myself a hard time because I think I have high expectations, but I beat myself up an awful lot. But I think if we can stop and take stock of how capable we have been, so that we can actually use that to propel us forward. And you know what? Sometimes I think one of the other tips that I'd give is embrace our failures.
Yeah.
Yeah, we failed.
Yeah.
We don't have to be perfect. And that was probably one of my greatest learnings, is that I was so ashamed before of having, been airbrushed out of my own business. Like the shame of that. But actually, now that I've kind of reframed it, I set up a multi-million-pound company. It was me that had the intellectual property that, had the biggest impact, like all of those little things. So, pick out the things that you contributed to. But also look at those failures and look at the lessons that you've learned, and what did it bring you, and where are you now because of those? What have you learned? So if you do want to do something big and you're afraid you're going to fail, well, what's the worst that can happen? What is actually the worst that can happen? And that kind of takes the wind out of the sails of the fear. So like one of my things was I wanted to launch my gratitude journal a few months back, and I've been sitting on the idea for a year or two, even more than that. I was posting on social media and everything else, but it just had this massive block of fear that I thought, I can't do this. I've had a business before and I failed, so I'm not, and you automatically associate with that. Well, I won't be able to. And then I wrote down like the worst possible thing that could happen. And the biggest thing was, I might lose a few quid.
Right.
And all of a sudden I went, oh my God, screw it. So like, at least then I'll know. At least then it won't be like this. Oh, I should have, or I would have, or I could have. Because I've done that in the past. Where I've had business ideas, and then you go and see other people fulfill them. And you think, you idiot, why didn't you just do it? And then you feel resentment and all those things too. So now I don't let myself have that. It's like, well, take action and give it a try. And if you fail, well, learn from it and move on. Go again.
Excellent. And I love the piece you said about, was it borrowing from the past to look to the future? Because as women, we're a lot stronger than we actually realize we are. And there's a lot of things we take for granted that we do every day because we just do. But actually it takes a lot of strength and inner fortitude to actually do that. Surviving from a poor relationship, managing the kids, the house, the husband and everything. Those are all skill sets that we just overlook and we take for granted. So I love that. I love the borrowing from the past to look forward to the future, because it's very similar to something I say, that I have to learn from the past to kind of dictate my future. So Absolutely. To take some learnings from that. So that's great. So Karen, share with us a success quote or mantra that you would use and why it's meaningful to you. I think we've touched on a couple, but is there a special one?
Yeah, I think there's one of them, and I put it in my journal of, what's meant for you won't pass you by.
Right.
And I know it's a very old kind of Irish thing of, just if you're feeling really, really stressed sometimes, you're not sure what to do. I think sometimes you need to know that it's going to happen. The right thing is going to happen at the right time for you. So to almost, and not to rob Brené Brown's, kind of lean into it, but to just relax. We're not going to be able to, do a million things at once. So kind of break it down. It'll happen at the right time. And that's not to say not to have motivation or not to, push yourself, but it's okay. My other thing is that there's always a lesson. There's always a lesson, no matter what's happening. And you might not see it then. And you might not see it, a week or two afterwards, but there will always be something that you take away from it. I always think, I've kind of trained my brain nearly at this stage that if something shit is going on, I know that I can say, you know what, it's okay, because I'll find something in it, and I'll make a point of, finding whatever it is, and I'll use it at some stage. And at the moment, I'm like, well, something bad happens. Well, it's going in the book. It's great. It's going in the book. It's just,
it's going to be epic. So looking back, as we said, you've had this roller coaster. You did a lot of things early on. Looking back, is there anything you would have done differently?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think the times when I really doubted myself, I should have taken action. Okay. When I didn't think that I was big enough or confident enough or good enough. That I wish I'd just tried. Just to take that one step forward, because sometimes with that overwhelm, I don't know, I freeze frame.
Right.
I just stop. When I get overwhelmed like that, I just stop and I do nothing. And I wish I'd just taken that extra step. With business ideas and stuff. Just do it. But again, just learn from that. And I suppose that brings me back to the other point of, just give it a try. What is the worst that can happen?
So that would that would be your philosophy now. So if you're faced with situations like that, that's you're going to say, well, like you say, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And in the same, I suppose, a similar vein, looking back now, what advice would you give your teenage self? You've got young girls, so you're probably going to be in this situation a few years' time, where it's mom trying to give advice to your teenage daughters. But what advice would you give to your teenage self?
Oh, I think always speak up for yourself. Don't be afraid to be you. I think I think being a strong, confident woman can sometimes intimidate people, and people can sometimes take the wrong impression or have the wrong view of you, that because you're confident and strong that, I don't know, that you can kind of be treated in a different way.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe that in a PC term. But I think don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. If somebody isn't treating you properly, or a co-worker or a business partner, whatever it might be. I wish I'd spoken up for myself a long time ago. So it's trying to instill that confidence in them.
Yes.
That it's okay to speak your mind.
Yeah.
And not to play small.
Yes,
be you. Celebrate you. The things that make you different, celebrate those. You don't have to play small in order to make other people feel better about themselves. And speak up for yourself. That's my biggest thing. I really always want to champion people that aren't being treated well. I think because I've been in that position before, I feel like I merely search them out in workplaces, and I want to build them up to have that voice, And I'm particularly passionate about doing that with women, because it's hard, particularly with kids and career and all that. It can be a tricky one. So
very much.
Sorry, 1 second. I'm going to. So it's speak up for yourself, and don't be afraid to show confidence.
And it's, I suppose, for me, it's about living authentically, because I suppose we get to be, women of a certain age, where we do build that confidence. We can live authentically, and we're not going to take the shit anymore, because we've done it already. We know what bad looks like, and I don't want that anymore. I want to be positive and face the positive things. So at the top of our conversation, you talked about getting a ticket for Tony Robbins. So if you could choose your own mentor, who would it be and why?
Oh, good question. I'd probably say him.
Okay.
Although, is Dee going to give out to me though? Because Dee's an incredible mentor. But you're saying if I could pick one, so I have Dee as my mentor now, which I'm entirely happy with.
Yeah.
If I was to choose one, out of the ether, I'd say it would be Tony Robbins.
Okay. And why Tony?
He's like this incredible force of nature. And I may go, can I choose two?
Yeah, choose two.
I'd say Oprah.
Okay, I've had Oprah the second time this week. I've had Oprah.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the story of adversity and how she was told that she was too emotional for TV.
Yeah.
That just really resonates with me, and that she's come back, and there's just so many facets to her,
Yeah.
So I said, go on, sorry.
So no, I could see about the emotional, because I was told in my CEO role that I was too emotional, and I shouldn't. What was it? The quote was, I was told, don't get emotional about it. And I'm like, but if I don't give a damn, who's going to? And as women, I think we bring a different spin to the leadership, to the management realm, because it's not that we're all touchy-feely, in touch with our inner feelings, but we just see things from a different viewpoint that a man definitely wouldn't see. And so I'm quite proud. I remember replying saying, if that makes me a better leader, then I'm happy to be emotional. And that was my response back, and it had to be a man that said it, that. But
of course it is. But isn't it funny though how women get their personalities attacked?
Yes, very
which
much.
I find is very interesting. Whereas men would be called assertive, whereas women would be called aggressive, or the opposite side, emotional. Whereas a man would be like, "Oh, that's so endearing. Isn't that lovely that he showed his emotions?" What
Yeah. The real double bind, and it's real. We have to navigate it every day.
I think the world is changing, though. I do
You
think there's a tilt. I think there's a bit of a tilt happening. I do. I don't think we're there yet.
Okay.
I think I think it's starting to. I can feel some change happening.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'll look for it, but I might need to come to your part of the world because it's not just here just yet.
How about I come to yours and bring that?
Oh, yeah, you could do that. You could do that. So, Karen, what are the 3 things you've learned about yourself during your career?
I think one, that I have the ability.
Yeah.
And that I am enough.
Yes.
Which has been probably the biggest one. I think we're very good at searching for the things that we're not good at.
Yeah.
So I'm confident, and I'm fairly happy with the things that I'm good at. I think secondly, I think that that part around failure and embracing it and being okay with it and learning and lessons from it too. That's played a huge part for me.
Right.
And then I would say just the art of being in the now and not trying to stress about the future, what's happened in the past.
Yeah.
Actually just being present.
Yeah.
And allowing and enjoying and making the most of actually what's happening now, and not trying to always get to the next step or the next target or the next piece of work. Actually enjoy what you're doing now and take that time to really embrace it. And that's a struggle sometimes, because sometimes you can feel your shoulders are all tensed because you've probably got about 10 things running around your head that you have to do, or your next meeting, whatever it might be. But actually stopping and going, you know what, I'm going to put that aside until I'm ready, and I'm just going to do this job now. I'll enjoy doing it, and I'll enjoy finishing off, and then I'll move on to the next thing. Excellent. And I don't know if that's an age thing, but it's certainly kind of prevalent for me at the moment of I'm just not going to stress about things that I don't need to.
Lovely. So you're a busy woman because, as I said, you work, you have the children, and you also have your own business.
Yes.
So what would you say, what would be your 3 key pieces of advice for maintaining the elusive work-life balance?
I think set your priorities in advance. I'm saying this, I'm like, I really need to follow this myself. One of the big things I do is I set aside particular amounts of time for particular tasks. So obviously my job is Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. It does spill over into the weekends too. But I know on a Wednesday and a Thursday evening every week, that's my personal business time.
Right.
Then every second weekend is my personal time, is in to catch up with friends or do whatever. So prioritize the time. I think then secondly is listen to your gut instinct on what it is that you're doing.
Right.
Because I think so much time is spent second guessing ourselves. Should I be doing this? Is it right to do this? Am I spending the right time with the right people?
Right.
Am I wasting time here? Actually be confident in what you're feeling yourself and listen to that gut instinct, because we always know. Sometimes we ignore it, and it can be to our detriment. But if you're unsure about something, actually just sit and listen and feel how your body feels. And then thirdly, don't be afraid to say no to things.
Yes.
Unapologetically. So value. Again, I suppose it links in slightly with number 1, but don't be afraid to say no to people, things, situations that aren't good for you. Unapologetically. That's my big thing. We don't have to apologize for not wanting to do something. So so say no unapologetically more often.
But it is something we struggle with. Women struggle with saying no, and I've kind of told people, look, what happens if you say yes? Think of it that way. What happens if you say yes when really what you want to say no? So it's just a different way of looking at it. So almost at the end now, Karen, almost at the end. So what would you say is your definition of success?
My definition of success would, it's really cheesy, is to actually be happy with what you're doing, how you're doing it.
Yeah.
I don't, success isn't defined by money for me. It isn't defined by, identification, career. It isn't identified by that anymore, and it was in the past, if I'm being honest. It's actually being happy being you and doing what you're doing and being happy with that.
Okay, excellent. And quite a few women have said being happy.
Really?
I've had very few tell me that it's about the money or the I suppose the outward success. They've actually said, I want to be happy, and if I had to take a step back to be happy, that's paramount for me. Yeah. And my last question. I know you did a workshop not so long ago about being your own superhero.
Yes.
So my question back to you is, what does it mean to you to be your own hero?
Oh, wow. I think being my own superhero is actually continuing and pushing myself a bit to pursue my goals.
Yeah.
Pursue, like, my biggest passion is helping people and
right.
I suppose speaking my truth in order to try and empower other people. So I think being really true to myself, that's
excellent.
Being really true and confident and happy with that, and actually being really honest and open. That's me being a superhero.
Beautiful, beautiful. So that was my last question, Karen, and I've loved the conversation. But if our listeners want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Sure. So my website is mygratitudeattitudejournal.com, and that has all of the links to my social media on there too. And there's also like a little message forum too. So I'd love to hear from anybody. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Karen. Thank you so much for your time, and we will speak again.
Thanks, Janice. Great to speak to you. Thanks for having me.
And that was the lovely Karen Dwyer. How fantastic was her story? She had a real roller coaster ride of life. And it's just brilliant to have that conversation with women like that who have faced adversity, but have actually risen and are doing great things in the world. So that just leaves me to say that thank you so much for listening. It's my pleasure, as always, to show up here every week and connect with like-minded women who want to live their life to its fullest and be empowered to take their career to the next level. Now, if you've been inspired to make your next move in your life or your career and you'd like some support in turning your dreams into action, then just contact me at janicesutherland.com to book your free consultation. And if you like what you've heard, I would really, really appreciate if you could leave me a rating on iTunes, as that helps me spread the word. It helps me get more visibility, so women like you and more women like yourself can actually hear the podcast as well. And again, if you have liked what you heard, please share this with all the other phenomenal women you know. Until next time.